Hello and welcome to today's webinar with Pearson English. My English provides solutions for distance learning anytime, anywhere. This session will walk through the steps of utilizing the wide array of tools available within MyEnglishLab, such as homework assignment, progress check, and reports. Please note that webinar platforms everywhere are very busy at the moment, and there is a chance that we may experience problems during this webinar. We will make a recording available to you all after the session. We will answer questions at the end. Please let us know anything you want to know using the Q&A box in your control panel. It's my pleasure to welcome Merve Golestan, Learning Consultant and Master Training with Pearson, and Soner Deniz Demirhan, Customer Support Specialist with Pearson also. Thank you, and over to you.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining in. This is Merve Golestan and I work for Pearson as a learning consultant and a master trainer.
Hello everyone, this is Deniz from Pearson Turkey. I'm working as customer support specialist. And yes, we'll today see how to use MyEnglishLab during this session. I will be starting with how to log into the platform. And then I will let Merve Hanım to inform you about how to use it. So to start with, I'd like to share with you the template files. So these template files need to be filled out by you, and then you need to provide them with your Pearson representatives. So once Pearson representatives sends these files to our digital service and customer support team, they will be creating your accounts and your student accounts and then provide it with you back. So you need to fill this file for teachers in your school, and you need to fill this file out for students. So we will add students to the classes that you mentioned here. And those classes are going to be created with the products that are assigned to them. So that once we have shared with you the user accounts, your students are going to access to the platform, and you also access to the platform, and you will have access to the books and all the resources in it. So we will see how to log into the platform. So the platform is Pearson English Portal. You may just type Pearson English Portal to the address bar. And then the first page will take you to the login page. So when you just visit this page, English Portal page, you need to click the sign in button here. Or you may use english.com/login as a faster way. So it will also take you to the login page. So once you have your account information, you need to go to this page and then type in your username and password. And then click sign in button. This will take you to the portal, and to have access to MyEnglishLab, you need to click on the books, so that it will take you to the MyEnglishLab portal. So now Merve Hanım is going to provide you with information of how to use MyEnglishLab deeply, and she'll be ready in a couple of seconds.
Thank you very much, Deniz. Let me share my screen. And hopefully everyone can see my screen at the moment. So let's start with what MyEnglishLab is to begin with. MyEnglishLab is a learning management system. So it's an interactive online workbook for your students, basically. If your Pearson courseware supports MyEnglishLab, then you should expect to see all of your workbook content in this platform. So all the activities that are in the workbook of your students can simply be found here. Depending on the courseware you're using, with some courseware, we have some extra resources or activities that's not in the workbook on top of all the workbook content. So that would be the workbook content, all of the workbook content, plus extra resources. If the courseware you're using, or that you will very soon start using, doesn't have a workbook, then the activities here in this platform would be the extra activities that you wouldn't be able to find in the courseware. This system will allow you to assign homework directly to your students. They'll complete the activities, and as soon as they click submit, the system will auto-grade. It will automatically mark the activities, and you will receive reports on how well they've done. The platform is the same for all primary, low secondary, upper secondary, and tertiary titles. Today I'm going to be demonstrating on a low secondary book called Wider World, but all the buttons, the tabs, the layout of the system is going to be exactly the same. So no worries if you're not using Wider World but a different book. It's going to be exactly the same. The content will be different, of course, but the system will be the same. So today I'm going to be focusing on 3 tabs that are Assignment tab, the Course tab, and the Gradebook tab. Let's start with the Course tab. So we're actually on the Course tab at the moment. And there's 3 ways of using MyEnglishLab platform. So first way is you assign homework to your students, and only then your students can see the activities. So unless you assign anything from the portal, they wouldn't be receiving anything. So it's on an assignment basis. That's number 1. That's a first way of using MyEnglishLab. Number 2 is your students can use this platform as a free space for self-practice, and you wouldn't assign anything then. They would just log in and practice anytime they want to. So you wouldn't assign anything. Anytime they want to go in there, they would just log in and do self-practice. That's a second way. The third way is a combination of both. So you may choose to use this platform as a space for your students to do self-practice, and also you would be assigning homework to them, and it would automatically be graded, and you would receive the results. So you can use in both ways. Here on the left-hand side, you can see all the units. So all of the units that you have in your courseware will be presented here. And next to these units, there is an icon, there are icons of an eye. If I move my mouse around it, it will tell me it's visible for students. So what does that mean? If the content is visible to the students, that means your students can log in into the platform and do self-practice, because they would be able to see the content that's hidden here. But if you don't want your students to do self-practice on their own without you assigning, all we need to do is to click on this eye for once, and then now it's gonna tell me it's hidden for students. So that means the students cannot see the content of this unit. If you're currently covering Unit 5, for instance, you may want to close all the other contents, the other units, and just leave the first 5 units open to the students so they could practice anytime they want to, but still they wouldn't be going into the other units that you haven't covered so far. So that's how you can use these icons. Now, I mentioned we have units here, and then as we click onto any unit, let's click on unit 2, for instance, on the right-hand side, I'll see the subsections of my unit. So for Wider World book, the book starts with, or the units start with the vocabulary section first, then grammar, reading and vocabulary, grammar, listening and vocabulary, speaking, English in use, self-assessment, self-check, and BBC culture. Of course, the sequence would be different because you'd be using different books. So this is just the content for Wider World. But you will be able to see the content of your units. So any subsection you want to go into, if I click onto this little arrow, downwards arrow, then it's going to show me all the exercises that I have in vocabulary. So all the vocabulary exercises are listed here. And if I want to individually hide a certain exercise, I would be able to do that by simply just clicking onto the eye again, or I can make them visible to the students. Let's say we're covering Unit 2, and I want to assign a vocabulary homework to my students. And here are my exercises. I'd like to check this first one. I click on it, and there's another window. I can make it full size. And this exercise is drag and drop the words to the correct categories. So this is, because this is a teacher's account, because yours will be teacher's accounts, you will have the answers on top of this page. But there's a button here that says switch to student view. So if you click onto this switch to student view, this is exactly how your students will see this exercise. So basically what they need to do is drag and drop the answers. And as soon as the students finish it, complete it, they will need to click submit, and you will automatically receive a report. It will be auto-graded. They'll be able to see their correct answers and incorrect answers. There's one thing to be careful about though here. We've got a close button, a save button, and a submit button. Unless your students click the submit button, you wouldn't be able to receive the report. You wouldn't be able to get back the assignment. The save button is for the students to save all the answers that they've done until so far. So for instance, the kid is doing homework and then it's dinner time, the parents call him or her for dinner. The student can simply just save it and continue later on without losing all the answers that he or she has put in. So they need to click submit. Let's close this one. And let's have a look at another exercise. So again, I think this is a drag and drop exercise. Let's switch to teacher view. Okay, and another one. This is a typing one. So complete the words for meals, and the students are supposed to write their answers here. And again, as soon as they finish, they click submit. Let's pretend I decided to send these assignments to my students. Let's say exercise 1 and 2 and 3. I would be clicking on assign. But if I decide to assign all the activities that's listed under vocabulary, I don't necessarily have to go and click all of these one by one. But instead, what I can do, I can click on this box that's right next to the title, and it will automatically click everything that's underneath. So let's say I want to assign all of these exercises to my students, and I would click on assign. It's very user-friendly. And then the system will show me the names of my students that are enrolled in this classroom. I can either choose certain students. For instance, if I want to send all these activities just to Darren, I can do that by simply clicking on him. or Marion, or I can select all, and then all the activities will be sent to all of these students all at once. There is another box here. Students who join this course after the assignment is sent will receive this assignment. So later on in the future, if you have other students enrolling into your class, if you want your students to still receive this old assignment of yours, then we recommend you click onto this box and they will receive it later on. So once I've chosen my students, I will simply click on next step, and it will ask me to put a deadline. So today is the 25th of March, and I want my students to complete the activities, let's say until Friday. So I choose the day, and then they've got 3 days to work on the assignments, and I can also put a time here. So let's say 10 p.m. and they will have to complete this activity by 10 p.m. 27th of March. So I've decided on the date and the time. I'll click on next step, and there is more features here. So here, the first one, it says activity attempts. So how many attempts do I want to give to my student? If you'd like to give just one attempt, then the student will have only one chance to answer the questions and do the assignment, or you can choose 2, so they can try for 2 times, or you can choose unlimited, and then that would enable them to do it as many times as they want to. For test attempts, because with certain courseware, we've got the test package inbuilt in this MyEnglishLab system. So if it's a test that you're assigning to your students, then by default, it will give just 1 attempt. So there's nothing you can do here. And the next feature, it says automatically set score to 0% if student fails to submit an assignment or a test. So if you want your students to receive 0 if they pass the deadline, then make sure you check this box. But if you still want them to get a score out of what they've done, then leave this unchecked. And then underneath that, we've got show hints and show tips. So if you click on show tips, then the system will provide the students with a sample answer. So there's going to be a question, and there's going to be a sample answer, a sample question. So you may choose to show those tips or hide those tips from the students. And that's the same with hints. Hints are little parts from their books, or little parts from their grammar charts to refresh their memories with the correct grammatical structures or with the correct vocabulary. So basically, it's those little hints that would refresh their memory on the grammatical structures. Again, you may choose to show them or hide them. We have a timer, so if you enable the timer, let's say you've got about 30 questions and you'd like your students to complete those 30 questions in 40 minutes, then you can do that and enable the timer. Or if it's just an ordinary usual homework and you don't necessarily have to enable the timer, then feel free to uncheck this box. Feedback is pretty much similar to hints and tips. If you click show feedback, then at the end of the completion of the exercises, just like a private tutor, the system will give feedback to the students. So it will say, okay, this is a correct answer because we use this and this, or that's a wrong answer because be careful with these certain structures, we do this and that. So it basically gives feedback to the students. And the other feature is grade capitalization in exercises. So if you want the capital letters, the lowercase and the capital letters to be, if you focus on those, then you may choose to turn them on. In that case though, even if the student's answer is correct, if there's a capitalization error, then the system would accept it as an incorrect answer. So just be aware of that. If you think capitalization is not your priority, then you may choose off, and it would not keep those in mind while grading your students' activities. The same thing, it's the same case with grading punctuation in exercises. So if you click on, then it will take into consideration of the punctuation of your students. And if there's a punctuation error or a missing punctuation, a full stop or a comma, then even though the answer is correct, because the punctuation is wrong, it will accept the answer as incorrect. But if you think punctuation is your focus, then feel free to keep it on. If you think your focus is not the punctuation, then you may choose to turn it off by simply clicking on off. And do we want the students to see the answers? So we can choose to never show the answers after they complete the activities, or after first attempt, or 2 attempts, 3 attempts. It's up to you. So you can decide. And let me choose 2 attempts. So I want my students to try for twice, and then it would give them the correct answer. And then lastly, when I click on assign, it will say, it will state you've successfully assigned exercises to your students, and the students will have received the exercises. And that's done. Now, that's how we assign assignments, and that's the same case with any other subsection of the book or with any other unit. We would do the same things, follow the same steps. Now that we're done with the course tab, let's click on assignments. And on the assignments tab, we again see 3 different tabs. So we've got to-do list, a calendar, and recent activity. So for calendar, we see the calendar of 2020, so this academic year. And on this calendar, you might see these little gray dots on the calendar. So that means for any dot, there is an assignment due to this date. So if I click on 25th, for instance, there's a dot here, and the assignment was to be done until 10 a.m. And if I want to see what that assignment was, I simply click onto this little dot, and it tells me there are 4 different activities that was assigned to my students, and those are Unit 9, Close to Nature, Listening and Vocabulary, Activity Exercise 1, 2, 3, and 4. If I want to see if my students have completed the activity, I simply click on See Report, and then I can see that my students have completed their activities, and I can see their scores. So if I want to see how my students have done in those activities, if I want to view those students' reports, then I simply click on to View. So I wonder how Kath did. She received 93 out of 100, so I'll just click onto that, and it will give me all the answers that she has put in, and everything seems perfect here. Probably there's just some words missing here. And let me go back. Okay, let's see how Nick was doing. So let's click on View, and here, because this is a demo account, I kind of randomly clicked onto certain vocabulary here and put in certain random letters here, just for you to be able to see what it looks like when students make mistakes. So we can see all the correct answers and the wrong, incorrect answers. Okay, so going back, this is how we use the calendar. If I click onto recent activity, then it will show me all the recent activity that I've done. So very recently, I have assigned these activities, and this is the deadline. And then yesterday, I assigned a different activity, and this was the deadline. And I can see the previous ones. So it will show me all the recent activities. Again, if I want to see how the students are doing, or if they've completed their activities yet or not, then I'll simply click on See Report, and it will tell me there are no student submissions yet. So my students haven't done their activities yet. And lastly, to-do list on the assignments tab. If I click on to-do list, then it will remind me of what's coming or what I have to check today. So for today, these were assigned. So the deadline is today. And again, I can click on the exercise. It would show me the exercise. I can click on the report and see how my students are doing. So 2 of my students have completed and they've received their scores, and 2 of them haven't done their activities yet. And what do I have planned for tomorrow? These needs to be checked tomorrow, and I have these activities to be checked in 2 days. So this is basically for us to keep track on what's coming next. Let's move on to Gradebook, the 3rd tab we've got here. So Gradebook, as the name suggests, it is where all the grades and all the scores, all the reports of our students are. So this is where we click to see our students' scores. Okay, let me choose my book. And here I see all of my students' names and their scores. We're on the Data tab, and right underneath this tab, there is a checkbox for assignments, for practices, and for tests. So if I want to view just the assignments and how well my students have been doing of the assignments, then I click onto this, and with dark blue, it would just show me the assignments. So my students have received these scores. But if you want to see the practices, so the self-practice that they go in there and do on their own without you having to assign them, then you would need to click on practice, and let's uncheck this one. So with light blue, then we would see our students. So here it tells me Marion and Nick were doing self-practice, whereas Darren and Kath were not. If I want to view both the practice and the assignments, you can simply click both, and with dark blue, you would see the assignments, and with the light blue, you would see the practices. And then with the tests, you will be able to see the tests in gray. So this is here on this tab, it gives us the overall scores. So these scores are out of all the units that my students have completed so far. But if you are covering Unit 9 at the moment, and you just want to see the results, the scores for Unit 9, then we need to break this down. So I'll click onto Unit 9, or whichever unit you're covering at the moment, and then it will provide you the data for Unit 9. And if you want to even go further down and just focus on how well your students are doing in vocabulary, for instance, then you can simply click on that and it would give you the data. So that's how they're doing. For vocabulary, let's click on grammar to see how they've been doing. So grammar, 60%, 40%, 60%, 40%. And this is the summary, so it means the average of my whole class. And let's try another one. So listening and vocabulary. Here, it's listening and vocabulary data presented. But if I want to go even further down to an individual exercise, then I can click onto the exercise and it will give me the data just for this exercise that was assigned. And as soon as you go to individual exercise level, then a button here will appear that's called Common Error Report, and this is very, very beneficial for us. Common Error Report is a report that would provide us the common mistakes, the common errors that our students have made. So let's check what that looks like. I want to do that for grammar because I want to see what the common mistakes for grammar is. So let's click on Unit 9, Grammar, and Exercise 1. I'll click on Common Error Report, and here is the Common Error Report. So here, for Exercise 1, the correct answer was supposed to be has eaten. But students, they've done a mistake and they've written has ate. And right here, I can see how many of my students have done this mistake, and 4 of my students have done this mistake, and I can see the names of those students. So if you have a class of 20, and if you have 10 students making the same mistake, then we know exactly where to go back and remediate. So here is another example. The correct answer was supposed to be have won, for instance, but the students have written have binned. So these are the students, again, 4 of my students, and the correct answer was supposed to be have played, but the students, 2 students in this case, they have typed in has played. So by just looking at this Common Error Report in simply seconds, I know what assignments I need to assign further to my students, or if I need to give extra homework, or if I need to deliver more instruction on the topic. Going back, as I mentioned earlier, if you don't click onto anything on this page initially, then it will give you all the students and the data of all the units. What did we do? If we wanted to narrow it down to a certain unit, we clicked onto units and then even to certain exercises, and the data is presented in accordance to that. However, if you don't want to see all of your class, but if you want to see, for instance, how Marian has been doing, then you can simply click on Marian. And then on the right-hand side, it will list all the units. So it starts with the starter unit, unit 1, 2, 3, and it goes on and on, how well she has been doing. So if you want to check how Marian has been doing for unit 9, again, what we need to do is to click on the unit and choose a certain section, for instance, vocabulary. How has she been doing in vocabulary? And even in certain exercises, I would click on it and it would show me. So let's try another one. Let's choose grammar and exercise 1. This is how she's been doing in exercise 1. Right next to this data tab, there's a tab called diagnostics. So if you click onto diagnostics, then the system will provide us some graphs. So we've got a graph, time per unit, so the average time your students have spent on this unit in this course, or time they spent per each subsection. So for instance, for vocabulary, how much time they've spent, I would like to see on a graph, amount of time that's been spent in this area, and score per student, so score for each student in this area, and then attempt per score. You can click onto this diagnostics on an individual student level, or even if you go to your students view, so the whole class, still you'd be able to click on diagnostics. Let's check this one, time per unit. So it tells me how much time my students have spent, each of them, for tests, for assignments, for practice, and for total. Let's go back to the reports. Let's check score per skill. So because this is a demo count, most of these skills are empty, but we have the grammar, speaking, reading, writing, listening, vocabulary, spoken interaction, and production. So it would tell us. Again, we can go back, time spent per subsection. It will give us the time, average time on task for units. And then if I want to look into a certain unit, then I would simply click onto the unit and it would show me the breakdowns. So how much time was spent for vocabulary, for grammar, for listening and vocabulary, and all the other subsections for assignments, practice, and tests. How do we export the report? So if we want to download these reports and maybe send it as a soft copy to the parents or to the students, or if we want to have a look at the reports, then how can we download them? Then here, right underneath the chart, there's a part that says export gradebook for XML, Excel, and Moodle. So if you click onto, let's try Excel now, Excel, it will tell us export in progress and your data is being exported. Please visit assignments page to download the file. So we need to close this window and go to the assignments tab that we checked earlier. So here is my assignments tab. I'll click onto this. And here it says the gradebook export of Pearson to the book that you're using has finished. Your file is ready to be downloaded. So I want to download my file. I'll click on to the file, and a file is being downloaded to my computer. And I'll click onto this. It will open Excel because that's what I chose to download in. So here we can see all of our students and their usernames, their last logins, enrollment dates, and how many assignments they've completed. So the teacher assigned 8 assignments to Darren, yet he only completed 7 of them. Or for Marion, the teacher assigned 9 assignments and then she completed all of them. Here are the scores and the grades. Grades we don't really use in primary, low secondary and upper secondary as we grade them out of 100. But if it's a tertiary, if it's a university and you would like to use grades, then feel free to focus on these grades as well. Otherwise, for primary and secondary, not necessarily you need to take these into consideration. So how many tests completed and the scores, grades would appear here as soon as they complete tests, and how many practices. So I think we had most of the units visible to the students, and therefore it seems like there are 675 activities the students can do as self-practice, and this student hasn't done any self-practice, whereas these two students have done one. And then we would be able to see the practice score and grade and total time spent on task. So we would be able to see how much time each student spent in the platform doing practice and homework. And then at the bottom part of the Excel document, we see different tabs. So feel free to check these tabs as well. It shows the breakdowns across skills. So for the percentage for grammar, listening, reading, speaking, and so on. And there is other tabs that would give you information on each unit. So it would give you a breakdown, starter unit, welcome, assignment unit 1, practice unit 1. So make sure that you check all of these tabs because there's quite many. Okay, so this is how we export the report. Let's close this window now. Going back to the gradebook. As I just mentioned now, on this chart, we can also see how many activities were completed out of how many there is in the system or how many we've assigned as an assignment. So you don't necessarily have to just download the report to look at that, but you can simply click here, assignments and practice, for instance, and it would give us the numbers of completed activities on this screen. Before wrapping up, let's log out from the instructor's profile and let's sign in as a student. So let me sign out and I'll make sure to close this window and sign out from here again. Okay. Now let's pretend I am a student instead. So the student puts the username and the password in and clicks sign in. For the students, they will have the books that they are using. So because this is a demo account, it has multiple levels of the same book, but normally the students would have 1 or 2 maximum. So here, this is how the students would see the platform. Again, on the left-hand side, we've got the units, and I can see that these content here are not hidden from me. So I can actually go click onto unit 1 and do self-practice as a student if I want to. So I want to do grammar practice. I'll just click on exercise 1, open, and I will write my answers and complete the activity and submit. And here is a hint that I mentioned earlier. So if I click onto that, then it will give me hints of present simple, affirmative, and negative adverbs of frequency. So here is a small script that would refresh my memory. So after completion, the students would click submit and the teacher would receive the report. So this is where the students would do self-practice. But what if you have assigned an assignment and you want your student to do that assignment? In that case, the student would need to click on assignments. And then I can see I have 2 assignments for today. This is the due date and the time, and I've got 9 hours remaining. And I can just click on the activity and do it. But because I think this has been tried before, it says try again. So I can simply click on try again and do the activity again. But this student has given correct answers, so not necessarily she or he would need to do it again. And unless you give 2 attempts or 3 attempts or unlimited attempts, if you just let them do it for once, then they wouldn't be able to do it more than once. So this is how the students keep track with their assignments. And in the next 7 days, I know I have all other assignments that I'm supposed to do as a student. And here it says attempts remaining 1. So that means I've tried once and there's only 1 left. So I can click on try again, or I can click on see report and see how I did. At the top part, it tells me I received a 50% score, and here are the tips, and here are my answers as a student. And I can click on try again and do it again. If a student wants to check the gradebook, then they'd simply click on gradebook, or if the parents would like to check how well their kids have been doing, then they can click on gradebook. And again, for any unit, they would receive their scores here. If they're interested in a particular unit, let's say unit 9, they would click on to unit 9, and then it would give the breakdown of the scores. So for instance, this student is better in reading and vocabulary than grammar. There is also options of language. So for those parents who would like to check but who cannot navigate in English, then they can simply click here and choose any other language here. For instance, they can click on Turkish and make the gradebook and the system in Turkish. However, if the students click onto Turkish or on another language, then the activities, of course, wouldn't be translated into that language. It would just be the tabs and the explanations in the system. So let's make it English back again. I guess that's all. We've showed the instructors portal, so how we would use it as teachers and how the students would use the portal as students from their student accounts. We can simply click on sign out and close the window.
Great, thank you so much, Merve. That was an incredible session. It's good to see the depths that Mel can help teachers and students. So we have time now for questions. So please, anyone, if you have any questions, please use the questions and answer box, which is in your control panel. We've had a few questions come in, so I'm going to hand over to both Merve and Deniz to manage those. I believe Deniz has one just asked. He's going to read out. So over to you.
So yes, we have a question that, we have a question that, is there a way to set a certain amount of time for a specific exercise? Like a student can spend more time than 10 minutes for that certain exercise?
Yes, exactly. It's up to us on how much time we allocate to each exercise. You don't have to enable the timer. It's not a must, but if you want to set the timer, then you type in how many minutes you want to allow your student to have.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen now to show it. So this is our teacher account, and let's say you have chosen your exercises to be assigned, and you need to click to assign button, and then you'll choose your students, the next, and you'll set your due dates. So here on the apply settings page, you have an enable timer button here. When you check it out, it will allow you to enter minutes to this assignment. So if I set it as 30 minutes, your students need to complete the whole assignment in 30 minutes. We have another question, I guess.
By the way, it doesn't necessarily have to be 30 minutes. You can put 10 minutes or 40 minutes or any time you'd like to put in.
So many of our students may be beginners and not very proficient in English. Is there a help page in Turkish they can refer to? I'm positive some of my students will not be able to figure this site out without assistance. So we have a support page. Let me share it with you. Okay, I'll just close it out. And this is so yardim.pearson.com.tr. So this is Pearson Turkey's support page. When you and your students go to this page, they just need to sign up once, and then they can create help requests, or they can just use chat button. There will be a chat button here when they sign into their account, and they can get both. They can get help both in English and in Turkish. They will be, replied within 24 hours, and they will get help via this page.
Just to double check, Deniz, if the students go to this page and sign up, would they be able to view this page in Turkish?
So yeah, we have a session. We have a choose here. We have an option here. They can just turn it into Turkish. So they will just register, and then they will be able to create support tickets, or they will just be able to create live chats.
So if they need further assistance, those beginner level students, then they'd be able to go to this yardim.pearson.com.tr and sign in, and would be able to use the system in Turkish. And if they need to raise any concerns or if they need any support, then they'd be able to reach us.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see if there are.
And Deniz, we've had another question come in, which is linked to what you've just said. And is there a kind of tutorial for students? So I imagine in this space, is there some sort of materials to teach students how to use the system?
So yeah, let's see, this is our primary page. And let's see, if you are a student and you need to get help, you'll just go to this button and then click the students. As you may see, there are any other products, and once they click to MyEnglishLab, so it will, provide them how to register or how to join into a class. But as I have stated previously, we will set all your accounts and your students' accounts to be used to be ready. So if they have any other questions about technical issues or about the usage of the MyEnglishLab platform, they'll just need to create support tickets or live chats so that we can contact back to them and inform them about their questions.
And also, if any student goes to YouTube and type in MyEnglishLab, I'm sure there's plenty of other videos on MyEnglishLab on how to use MyEnglishLab. Correct me if I'm wrong, Deniz.
Yeah, that's true. So we have another question. Unless we hide the activities and give the students as assignments, they can do all the exercises as self-practice. Yes, they can, but you can also assign the activities, and you can also let your students to work on them as practice.
So if the content is visible to your students, unless you click on the eye and hide the content, then they'd be able to log in and do those activities as self-practice. But for instance, if there's certain activities that you don't want your students to do prior to your assignment, so you don't want your students to see those activities, but you want to send them as assignments when the time comes, then you can kind of hide those and then assign them when the time comes.
Mm-hmm. So one more question. Can students get in touch with us through this platform, like an interactive online class?
There is a messaging tab. I think I've got a sample messaging on the system from some of the demo accounts, but I've logged out, so I need to get back in. Or could you just log into the, are you on the instructor's account?
Let me check. Yeah, I'm on the instructor account.
Okay, there should be messaging.
Okay, I'll share my screen once again. So there's this button here, messages. Yeah, we have a message from our students, Mary and Pearson. When you click on it, yeah, we see their message, and then we can reply to them, and or we can forward to this message to others on the class. So if you need to create a new session, a new message session, you just need to click to new message and then choose your recipients here, and then subject, type in your message and then send. This message will be sent immediately to your students, and they can also reply back. So do we have any other questions?
We haven't had any more come in yet, no. So I think we're at the end of the session. Merve and Deniz, again, thank you so much for your time. It was a brilliant session. And thank you to all of those who have attended and been with us in this informative hour. Recording of the session will be sent to everyone along with PowerPoint slides. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in contact with the reply to email in the details. Thank you all and have a good rest of your day. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.